Everyone, how you doing today? I thought I'd show you an update to this Skaar Destroyer. um, Let me just show you the one I showed last time and talk about a few things I wanted to make changes on and before I continued on. Okay, so on this one here, some of my goals were I wanted to redo this bottom here. Let me get my light on. Redo this bottom area so it lines up better with the thrusters. When I was showing this to a different author, um, they were recommending that I try to do something with the hangar door. It kind of sticks out there a little bit and a bit too noticeable, I would say, versus like the thrusters and things like that. So the problem I had is it was suggested to move the hangar door inward more, but the problem I've got is the limited space on this side of the hangar door before it gets to the Helios bays, and that's a bit of a problem. So I didn't want to make that space even less because there's not a lot there already. So what I ended up doing, let's go over to the new one, which has quite a bit more work done to it now. I actually took the thruster housings and I moved them out another block space. So they actually protrude out a little bit more by one block, and then I did some extra little row of stuff on the inside there. And then I chopped down the area that goes around the hangar door by a couple blocks as well. If you can see on this one, it's straight and it kind of zigs out there a little bit, and actually comes out a total of 3 blocks from the actual hangar door. On this version, it only comes out, well, I would say, I guess 2.5 blocks if you count that little jaggy thing, but really about 2 blocks. So it's the thrusters are out 1 more block. The rim for that is in 1 more block. On the bottom area, you can kind of see that this section here now kind of lines up underneath the thrusters. Did that kind of again for some cosmetic effect there, so it looks like it's a big housing. I've got some. Oh, I'm missing some blocks over here. Yeah, after the copy and paste, I missed a couple things. I noticed that on this side here. I wonder if I got the same issue going on over here. Oh, I must have been out of symmetry. So I fixed up one side and didn't fix up the other side. So I'll have to do that. Moving on to other areas of the ship. Obviously on the back too, I added a bunch of turret positions. Go figure. But so it's got 4 turret positions there, another 2, so we got 6. All these turrets I slung right around the new bridge section here. You can kind of see what that's looking like. On the bridge, I wanted to do something kind of funky with the glass. I kind of wanted to lift up the cockpit a little bit. I don't know if I'm finalized with the glass I've got going on there. I've tried a couple different things. It's weird trying to fit the glass within this line frame here. I wanted the glass to go out another block row, but then it's really weird, and I got to build this area out. So I'm still frogging around with that, I guess you can say. But we'll see how it comes out in the end. I think it's. I'm not so. I'm pretty happy with it right now, though. It's not too bad. And then I kind of built in this little center section that was in between the triangle here, and I wanted it to look tough and armored. And I think this is doing the job. They're having that like little kind of square plate or something there. Again, a bunch of choppiness with the blocks on purpose for the shadow effect on this. Other areas that have been worked out. Well, obviously the bridge section and the top of the bridge right now. Again, anything could change. I tried to get some a couple fake-looking antennas over here just for I don't know, a little throwback to a Star Destroyer. They had some big mount things over here. Obviously, this bridge is way tinier and lower to the ship than what a Star Destroyer actually is. Star Destroyer kind of goes up pretty high, and this bridge is a lot larger. But again, it's excuse me, it's Empyrion, and I got to make this work somehow. Now, let's see, other sections that I started working on. Just a little bit on the inside of the Helios bays. Again, like everything else, I'm just chopping up the walls, doing all kinds of things, just continually and changing all the way around on this ship. Now, this is an experimental feature. I don't know if I'm going to keep that. I'm talking about the solar panels on the roof of the Helios bay. Now, they're tucked in. Obviously, you can't see them from the outside. Technically, if this ship, you know, in Reforged Eden, obviously it doesn't even care where you have these solar panels. You could tuck them inside with no access to sunlight whatsoever. This technically could work, though, because if you were to park and the sun was facing you from this direction, they are actually all exposed to the outside. So technically, you know, the solar panels could work properly, but again, I don't know if I want to have the solar panels on the ship in the first place. It conveniently fit exactly 24 solar panels between the two sides here, which is nice. And it kind of doubles as a ceiling for a Helios bay. So I don't know. That would, if I left those though, it would force this ship to be Reforged Eden only, because this doesn't exist in vanilla. And one side effect to that too is I would have to build out another floor that raises this area up a block higher inside, which is, I wouldn't think any big deal because, I mean, there's a lot of room in here, but it just, you know, that would be its side effect, and I don't think it's that severe. All right, so let's see other sections that have been being worked on a little bit. I started more parts of the bottom, a little bit more in this front section here, trying to get interesting block work going on. Again, trying to mix it up, chop it up all the time. I was just going to get ready to do like this next section here, and then I got this section, and then that section. And I also did start on the very back, bottom. I'm trying to get some angled block work done to it as well, like over in this section here. I did that on the Leviathan, which is, it requires a 2-block layer to pull that off. You can't do it with 1-block layer because it's missing a block that could pull off in like if you cut into a block wall and want to do an angle, there's no blocks that work for that. It's missing this one really simple block to pull that off. But you can do it with 2-block layers. So that's what I was trying, and then of course went with this little roundy thing over here just for the heck of it to again to break things up a little bit. And yeah, some more turrets on the bottom side over here as well. Now there'll be more turrets again as I build out the bottom. Every now and then I'll start thinking about, hey, this would make a good turret position, and then I'll usually modify the floor for that. Some of the turrets on here are retractable. A lot of them are not. Now another thing that I did do is I removed the 2 closest artilleries that were sitting in these locations here, replaced them with a couple regular turrets which fit, and then I added 4 had to compensate, you know. Added 4 artillery positions way in back, so I kind of built up the sides here. Now the nice feature about these is they should, although maybe I'm mistaken on that, I'm seeing this block work right here that could interfere with that turret. Maybe. No, I think it should shoot over most of that, except maybe this one. I'll have to test that. But these 4 turrets here should also be able to fire to the back of the ship. I was also kind of evaluating like side combat action too, and I was trying to make sure that all the turrets and all the artilleries and everything like that would have a good line of sight firing from the side. Obviously, with these 2 that I put right next to each other, this inner one won't be able to fire directly sideways in that case, but let's see, I think most of them can, at least on the one side of the ship, and then with all the increased turrets around the this section here, I think I should have pretty good broadside abilities too. Obviously, this is going to cost a fortune. So in the bridge area, obviously this isn't done yet. This would be the main bridge. There would also be a secure bridge. And what I'm going to try to do is have all your base function of this ship, I mean, like what you're typically going to be using, is going to all be back in this rear area. So if I pop in some farm location, or a place to add farm plots if you're going to use those, your crafting, production, storage, medical bay, whatever, all that stuff I plan on having back over here. There'll probably be a central elevator that jumps up, goes all the way up to the bridge up top, and then quick access to the Helios module bays. And then the rest of the ship up on the front side of the Helios module bays, and some of it up top here will, be some armor reinforcing and I'm sure some fluff. I wanted to get some bigger hallways in here, and I kind of wanted to make it, when you're walking around in this ship, to feel kind of like, I don't know, a Star Wars ship that you would see in the movies or something like that. So I'll try to do with some aesthetics like that. But for in-game functionality, basically, I wanted to keep all your main stuff within a fairly tight area, so you don't have to run all over the place to do things. I think that would be helpful too. And it's interesting how this is working right now. If you walk out of here, this actually walks through over here and goes to this landing pad. Now, and when I was showing Excalibur this, he suggested maybe cutting into here and adding in a ship that could, or a separate ship, like a get-around ship that could detach from the main CV and fly around. Logistically, I ended up not going with that, and the reason why is it was really tight. It was extremely hard to try to dock in here. The ship had to be fit within a very tight area, unless I just changed this whole area around a lot. So I abandoned that idea, but I have not ruled out that idea yet. If I did do something like that, I almost thinking I would be better off to do it in front of the Helios bays on the bottom side, and maybe I could actually present a decent area to dock that ship, so you can like face it and like dock to a wall like this without too much problems. But I don't know if I want to do that yet or not either, because anything I do like that could mess with the aesthetics of the overall shape of the ship, unless of course you have that second ship, which you may not need because, well, you got Helios bays and things like that. And yeah, I'm glad that got brought up in the comments too. Most people agreed with the first idea of the ship that I had with the detachable nose. That was kind of a bad idea. It's neat that it works, but yeah, it's not very practical in game. So I'm cool with that. I'm not so sure if I want to do that extra add-on ship. I wouldn't mind having it like an emergency escape ship kind of thing. And I'll be looking around for an area to do that on. Now I like the idea of having the Helios bays for function. I do, if I was really trying to go a little more Star Warsy like, I think what I would have done is had some kind of maybe a louvered doors combination force field, and actually had this part of the hangar bay as you would come in, and start it down a little bit lower, so you would be a little bit more like a Star Destroyer that way, I think. They actually had some kind of bay on the bottom that you've seen in some of the movies, where they would load in vehicles and things like that, be able to deploy them. Now anyway, that's where I'm at right now. My next challenge is, well, basically I'm just going to keep on trying to work on parts of the body until I get it done. It is getting there. Another day or two, and maybe I'll be able to get the rest of this bottom figured out. And as in like size, class, and CPU and stuff like that. Well, this thing's going to take a huge amount of CPU. No doubt. It's being built as some psycho endgame Dreadnought ship, and I could leave some guns off, and maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll try to dial in the CPU to manageable levels in the end, and it all depends how many turrets it has. But keep in mind, the thrusters use up an insane amount of CPU right off the gates, even without the turrets. But it's got a ton of turrets on here, and it's going to have more yet, especially on the bottom. So spec-wise, in current production, it already hit size class 10, and I don't even have the block work finished on this, and no interior. So again, I expect this to be in the original realm of what I was thinking of, size class 20 to 24, somewhere in that range there. Current loadout, 68 cannon turrets, 12 artillery turrets, 6 minigun. Oh, I must have put some, I don't even remember putting miniguns on. I thought they were all cannons. Whoops. All right, well, anyway, these are placeholders, by the way. So these 68 cannon turrets aren't going to be cannon turrets in the end. It's just I like to dump a turret there real quick and then figure out what turrets I want where later on. Oh, and I forgot about the 25 retractables. Plus, if you add in these, it's, gosh, you know, artillery cannon. Oh, retractable artillery. Okay, so we have 10 artillery turrets. These were 12 artillery cannons. Man, I can't even read. But anyway, you get the idea over there. It's going to need more power in here, too. So the CPU we're seeing right now is going to go up. We're at about, it's getting close to 6 million CPU current loadout. And that's, keep in mind, that doesn't have a shield or warp drive in it, storage, or any other CPU using internal parts. That's just turrets and thrusters, pretty much. Oh, and it also needs more generators. So, yeah, that CPU is going to go up a lot. Will this work in vanilla? I don't know yet. I might try to dial it in just enough so it could achieve the 10 million if it does exceed that, and it probably will. I was kind of basing this on the Leviathan. Now, the Leviathan, here, let me just spawn that so you get a proper size comparison. Let me actually spawn 2 different ships in just so you get an idea on its actual scale. So how about the first one? We'll bring in the size class 5 Skaar Destroyer. This one's, you know, wasn't a tiny ship, but it wasn't, you know, certainly wasn't the biggest ship. But you can kind of see that next to this other one. There is a little bit of difference in size and scale and dimensions and things like that. And then on the second comparison here, let me spawn in the biggest ship I made, and that is the Leviathan. Well, I didn't entirely make it myself. It was a lot of interior areas were done by other authors. So let's see, can I fit that in here? I'll just kind of slam it somewhere around there. You know, a ship's big when you can actively watch it draw out row by row like a line printer. So there's the Leviathan in comparison. Granted, the Leviathan is a really, really big ship, but this ship is about, I don't know, roughly about 2/3 the length of the Leviathan. The Leviathan, I believe, was just over, I'm trying to remember if it was over 1,000 feet or 1,100 feet long. Oops. Let's see, this one was 342 meters. This one is 200 meters on the nose. So, yeah, it's 142 meters shorter than what the Leviathan is. Height-wise, it's about the same, I would say. It's a little bulkier, generally, especially on the back side of the ship. But that gives you adequate size comparison. Obviously, compared to like the Asteria, it is way, way bigger. So then another little hurdle I'm going to have to figure out too is obviously with the shadowing and the color right now. I like it. I like the looks of it a lot, and it has to do with, especially with the space lighting, how that's a little bit dark, but it makes very defined shadows on here. I want to keep that look in the end, but I do want to texture this as well. I'm sure I can get some more detail in it, but it's going to be brighter than the average Skaar and overall textures, and I'm also try to make the interior a bit cleaner and a little more high-tech looking than the average Skaar. In lure, I think I'm going to go the route where this thing was stolen by some other race or something in the game, as opposed to the Skaar actually making this themselves, or it was junked a little bit and they started recovering it. But I want it to be kind of, I don't want it to be too dark and dismal inside. I want it to be a little more lively. One last plan too is I think I'm going to, on this one, I'll use some of my own LCDs for standard stuff like storage bays and stuff like that. But I think I'm going to use other authors' LCDs that are available Of course, I'd give them credit for all the LCDs and things like that, but for decorative purposes. There's a lot of high-tech looking displays and other things that I would like to see in a ship like this, in certain rooms around the bridge, maybe other areas of the ship, that a lot of those LCDs I think could really look good on. And I don't really want to spend the time to try to make a whole ton of LCDs when they're already done and done very, very well by other people. So no sense try to reinvent the wheel. The wheel's already there. It works pretty good. So that's kind of my plan. I mentioned that on past ships that I wanted to at some point use other authors' LCDs. I think this would be a great opportunity to do that on this ship. And there's going to be a lot of space. There's going to be a lot of interior to do. So, it's going to take a while to get this thing done yet. I keep on working on it. I've been probably putting in about 2, 3, 4 hours a day. And that usually allows me to do one chunk or two chunks or different areas. And as the body, like I said, I probably got about, I don't know, a few hours left to finish up maybe the bottom side of this, and then I'll just about have like the baseline body done, and then I can start figuring out how I'm going to try to texture this. Texturing might not take as long as other ships though, because again, I'm going to try to keep it mostly white like this. I don't plan on putting in much in like color fluctuations or stripes or other things that I might do in other creations. I just want that solid Star Wars looking gray look pretty much, and rely on the shadows and the shaping of the body to define the ship more so than textures. But that doesn't mean I can't try to enhance this one way or another. I'll have to experiment with some of the different metal sets and different textures and try to figure out which ones can look good on this and which ones don't look good on this. And then try to figure out the interior style. But anyway, it is coming along pretty. I'm very happy with it. I really am. Out of all the things I've built for this game, I dare say that this might. I think it's probably the one I'm happiest with, looks wise. I think the back end came out really good. It feels right with the dimensions and proportions. I understand that the hangar door is something I didn't really want to have here for display purposes, but I did want a hangar in the ship because it's got tons of room, and I'd just hate to not use any of that and lessen the function of the ship because of it. So that was a gameplay decision, not really a aesthetics decision to have the hangar door in there. And hopefully it's tucked back far enough where it doesn't detract so much from the thruster housings, which are pretty massive. I decided I'm also going to keep the 10XL thrusters back here. I mean, it's a heavy ship. If you have some loaded up modules with a lot of weight on them, I think there's a module out there, I think Garaman, or maybe it was a different author that made it. I'd have to look, but there's one out there that did like, was it 30 or 40 320K storage units on it. I mean, if you got that full, that's a lot of weight to move. I would be quite thankful to have the 10XL thrusters on the back. Maybe a couple of those could be cut off by default, again, a CPU savings. I had thoughts where I could add in a couple mediums, but leave the spacing available so you could, or not medium, but large thrusters, where you had the spacing available to, remove some blocks and slap in these XL thrusters in its place. That would affect 4, which would probably be a fairly significant CPU savings. But still gets around. Now, one last trick. And something that you might not know, and I didn't make any mention of when I was building this, is I did a weird little technique when building this. Obviously, this has a lot of angles on it, and when you're putting together like these angled rows, like you'd notice that there's overlapping blocks. Essentially, like in this set here, you've got this size here. I'll just kind of reenact this real quick. Let's go to this very same angle set. So what I did throughout the entire hull of this ship, here I'll just get out into some other area, is when it's doing angles, whether I'm using this angle or the other angle, you got, like this is the 3 block set, and what I did to save CPU, or not CPU, but a little bit on weight. I'll just show you this fully grown here. So that's the angle. These in-between pieces, which are covered on both sides by other blocks, I actually made those throughout the ship right now out of carbon substrate. So the average hull would be set up like that. Of course, that would probably be missing too. Although most of the blocks are still combat steel and it's completely sealed with combat steel on the inside, so there's no like open holes where it just go through carbon substrate. The amount of times this presented itself was significant throughout the ship. And so it's resulting in thousands of blocks on here that are actually carbon substrate on the hull, which is all in an effort to lessen the weight of the ship so it can maneuver better. So you would see, and also all this little doodad trim stuff that I've got all over the place on the ship, these little things like this that are over combat steel blocks, that's all carbon substrate too. And you'll find areas all over the place that there's little additions and little detail thingies, like all this cage over the bottom blocks. This is all carbon substrate. Again, I don't believe that will affect its strength much at all, but it's resulting in probably 2,000-3,000 blocks on here that are carbon substrate and not combat steel, which is it's got to help with the weight of it, you know. So I don't know if that is the perfect design idea. I was just trying to think, how could I build something this big and bulky and keep the weight down some, at least, you know. I know every time I place a combat steel block, I'm like, man, that weighs like whatever kilotons or whatever, and it's like it scares the crap out of me. So this way, you know, worst case scenario, say this was a bad idea, I could convert all that carbon substrate to combat steel. But I think where it's at, and you know, I try to be smart with it too, kind of like a case-by-case basis. You know, if there's going to be some kind of exposed combat steel, then it's, or I'm sorry, expose carbon substrate. It's got a full or at least good sized partial block of combat steel behind it. And then on the inside, I do plan on, in a lot of areas, the armor I want to use for this, which will be largely completely hidden from both the exterior and interior of the ship, would be made of Xeno. So like on this front area will be probably packed in with a lot of Xeno and things like that. Maybe some of the blocks that are in there already that are combat steel will be converted to Xeno. I'm gonna try to do everything I can to make it as strong as possible, but also keep it as light as I can as I'm building it, so it has the best maneuverability it can with its current thrusters. It still gets around okay right now. It's not terrible, but it's just gonna keep getting heavier and heavier and heavier. Let me just take this out for a quick flight here. Kind of see, this is my current turning speed. Now I didn't want this ship like to fly like a jet fighter either, so I don't mind that slower. And all I can say is whatever speed you see this operate at now, it's going to get slower before it's finished, and it's really unavoidable. I don't know how much slower, but we will see. The bridge view looks like this currently. I did want to have this a little better view, and that is kind of where maybe I'll try to reinvent this again to get more glass out to the sides. I had glass there again, it just didn't work out with this aesthetics I was trying to do over here, and ended up filling some of that in. So it doesn't have as much glass, but I was trying to also accomplish like a bit of a double-decker bridge again. Maybe have like the main pilot seat here, but have a second floor over here for, you know, co-pilots and, you know, people operating scanners and radars and whatever in lure. But yeah, that is it. That's where I'm at on it. If you got any other suggestions, ideas, you know, I'm open ears. A lot of these, I you know, if it's a good idea, I do try to implement it. Not every idea is going to work out the way you think. Like the idea of having all these separate ships that would undock or fit into the hull. It's a neat idea. I'd like to do that again with some other ship, but I just don't think it's the right ship to do that with on this one. And stuff like that. Interior, again, I plan on having hallways. It's going to have space for a lot of rooms. One of those areas, I did want a pretty elaborate engineering section in here. And a little Star Wars inspired, I would say. Plan on doing some kind of big vertical mass with incorporate multiple parts, actual gameplay parts into that mass, and try to make it look like it's some big central reactor or something like that, but like a shield and warp drive and maybe some generators are thrown into it as one structure unit. And then I wanted to have hallways. Now hallways usually are a waste of space, even in a house, believe it or not. Hallways are, needed to get around. If you have like the most optimal layout of a building or a house, you probably actually wouldn't have any hallways in it, but it's pretty impossible to do on large structures. But I did want hallways in here because Star Wars has hallways, and you see in so many clips and movies and everything that they're walking down all these hallways all the time with these neat little support beams and stuff like that. I did want to capture that look on here, so I do plan on having some hallways that wrap around through the ship in various places with rooms off to the sides, of course. Stuff like that. But again, I wanted to keep it so it's also quick and easy to get around to the places that you need to be at when using the ship in game. So yeah, that's about it. And again, can't tell you how much CPU it's going to take or how long of a build time it's going to be or exactly what size class it's going to end up being yet, but I'll just keep on banging away at it. It's going to be a little bit before I get this one done, though. I tell you that much. It's not, like Excalibur's like, yeah, you have it done by next week. No, I won't. No, I won't. If you take a look at the time it took to build like this one, granted, I had some downtime. I got tired of working on it for a while and went to some littler other things, but eventually did come back to it and got it done. This one won't take as long as the Leviathan. It doesn't have that much interior space in comparison to that ship, but it's still going to take quite some time. So I would not expect this on the workshop for 2 to 3 weeks yet. But I'll have regular updates on what I've been getting done on it. And tomorrow I do plan on another look at the workshop, but I'm going to try to, I want to take a look at a bunch of newer stuff that recently came to the workshop this time. There was a lot of really nice creations, so I wanted to show some of those, and that'll take place tomorrow. Anyway, you all have yourself a good day, and I will talk to you later.